Hello, BookTube. Well, as mentioned, it's the beginning of the year, and that's time when lots and lots of people make resolutions and think they should make life changes. And that means there's a space opened up for the giving of advice. And if there's a space opened up for the giving of anything, there's a space opened up for the selling of that thing. And hence, the algorithm has recommended BroTube channels to me. Many BroTube grifters on YouTube, realizing that their audience of extremely biddable, famously aimless young men between the ages of 18 and 25 will be desperately looking for advice at this time of year, have stepped into the void and heavily monetized the advice they give to such people. And the algorithm has industriously recommended dozens and dozens of those videos to me. Some of them, I think, because they technically have something to do with books, but others for reasons that surpass my understanding, unless the algorithm thinks that I myself am a famously aimless 20-something young man, which is not the case. The only a dispenser of BroTube advice that anyone should listen to is me. Nevertheless, if I have to go through these things, you have to go through these things, hence the return of BroWatch. Not Baywatch. Not the greatest TV show in the history of television, which could not be made in the 21st century, in the censorious 21st century. Not Baywatch, but BroWatch, where I go through the videos that the algorithm has served up to me to see if we can sift any value out of them at all. So we're going to go through a few in rapid succession. I'm not going to subject you to each one of these in their own video. They are all giving you advice. So we're going to go through their advice and see if it's any good. And we're going to start with Readers Books Club, which I had never seen before. A young man named Amit runs Readers Books Club, and it has nearly 1 million subscribers. When I watched it, it had 971,000 subscribers. And there is one of his latest videos is all about, 22 pieces of advice for the new year. And if the algorithm was going to the bother of serving it up to me, then I made the time to watch. I thought we'd go through it together. One thing I did notice about Readers Books Club's video, it's extremely professionally done. It's CC'd and closed captioned, and he uses, it's full of B-roll footage. He's not in the video at all. And I have to point out, I don't know what service he's paying for to get his B-roll footage, but some of that B-roll footage is A-roll material, if you know what I mean. But let's go through his advice. You're going to find rapidly that that a great deal of this advice is very similar to other BroWatch videos that we have gone through, because the BroTube grifters don't have much in the way of specific new advice to give. Advice number one, resolution, I guess, for 2021. Number one is to wake up early. We've heard that many times before. He suggests all the usual benefits, that it gives you a jump on productivity, that it gives you a competitive edge against everyone around you because you've been up for hours. I think those of you who do make a habit of getting up early, I know quite a few of you get up early, have to get up early anyway for work, and you get up a little earlier than necessary in order to have the peace and quiet of the morning. And a lot of you will have told me that it really is a time for the sharpness of your brain, that you really like how it feels. And a couple of you have even taken that to extremes and gotten into the new habit, or the relatively new habit, of getting up very early when it's dark outside, and that you love it. And I want to give an ambivalent thumbs up, thumbs down to this piece of advice. I do strongly recommend it, that you at least try it. I'm all in favor of you trying all sorts of things to see if they work. I want to stress that if you do try it, remember, you're not going to know whether or not it's effective, whether or not it works for you the first few times. Give it 2 weeks. Give any new change 2 weeks to see if it suits you. I can personally speak to the wonder of those early hours. I encounter them almost every day. I read all night long, and if I forget to curl up and take a nap, or to get some sleep, or if I'm all caught up in my book, then I will be around to see exactly the early morning pre-dawn hours that some of you have told me about, and they are amazing hours. They are quiet. They are peaceful. They have an air to them that isn't like the rest of the day. And once you get accustomed to it, they can be very productive. Um, I used to use those very early hours, those pre-dawn hours, in a way that some of you have told me that you do. There's a particular type of thing you can do in that pre-dawn hour. It's in the first 2 weeks, it's the last thing in the world you want to do, but it's the best thing to do in those times. And for a long, long time, for years in my life, I use them for that reason, and that is exercise. That exercising in that early time feels wonderful, just wonderful. Once you get used to it, it feels wonderful. I know this will be sacrilege for a lot of you, but it is so, so much better than coffee as a way to start the day with total clarity. But anyway, that's his first suggestion, is wake up early. He means it mostly in competitive terms, but none of us are competitive, so you'd have to take it in more holistic terms. His piece of advice number 2 is do meditation, some kind of meditation. I have never understood this myself. I know that a lot of you swear by it, but the idea of emptying your mind, you're going to go an eternity. You spent an eternity embodying nothingness before you were born. And you're on the other end, there's an eternity waiting after you're dead. Why you would try to do that now? If you're one of these little snowflakes that says, oh, I'm so stressed out and pulled in all directions by the whole world, for Pete's sake. I won't say the phrase me sainted Ma used to say, but nevertheless, get a grip. Okay. But anyway, his advice number 3 is do affirmation. The BroTube grifting circuit uses this in a particular way. I want to broaden it because it is a very good thing to do. I don't know about doing it daily. Doing it daily sounds like a little bit of navel gazing, which is a big surprise coming from these guys. But what it means is accentuate the positives, stress the positives, make a point of doing that, even if you have to do it out loud or write it down, but make a point of doing it mentally, where no matter what things are going wrong in your life, no matter what horrible things are happening, make a point of taking a moment to stress the positive, the good things. Believe me, they're there. And if you get into the habit of daily affirmation, you'll start to see them, and you will feel better about it. You don't have to pull any illusions with yourself, but you will feel better about it. So it's a piece of advice that's fairly good. Number 4 is do physical exercises. This is a case where, one of many cases here. In fact, I don't think we've had an exception so far. The actual guy who's giving this advice on this channel, Readers Books Club, does not follow any of this advice. I should stress that. I think you probably know that already if you've ever watched a Bro Watch video. He doesn't do any of these things himself. But number 4 is egregious. He, of course, does not exercise. But nevertheless, I'm not one to say it since I don't anymore. But for the whole of my life, I did exercise. And it is wonderful. It does wonders for you. Your mental chemistry, your creativity, your resilience. It does wonders for it. It is not really a question of prolonging your life or anything like that. It's really the daily personal benefits that you get from doing it. Keeping in mind that we clarify our terms here. Exercise is not the same thing as exertion. People who say to me, oh, I really need my exercise, I'll take the stairs when I come back from lunch. Exercise is 20 consecutive minutes of doubled heart rate. Okay, so it's not the same thing as exertion. When you are lifting a box from the cellar, you are not exercising. If you are moving, and you're lifting 20 boxes over the course of an hour, then maybe you're getting on the border of it. But really, you have to be panting for it to be exercise. Okay, you have to be burning energy. But it is a good idea. If you at all can, you should. And those of you who've gone a long time without it and maybe have accrued minor or even not so minor health problems along the way and think, yeah, it's too late and I wouldn't do me any good anyway. It's not too late, and you would be amazed at what it does. So a very good piece of advice. Then piece of advice number 5 is practice gratitude, very similar to daily affirmation, which is to be thankful. Be thankful for what you have. You have quite a lot to be thankful for. No matter what it might feel to the contrary, believe me, there are times in the day when you can feel like absolutely nothing is here for you, and that is not true. If you take a moment to think about it, these are worthwhile. It's worthwhile to do. Number 6 is eat healthy food and do intermittent fasting. The BroTube grifting channel circuit loves intermittent fasting, the idea of intermittent fasting. They just love it. They don't tell you their secret weapon. Intermittent fasting, usually in the rough terminology, the way they describe it is to go a block of hours, 15 or 16 hours, without eating on a regular basis. And they, of course, don't tell you how they get through that. It's exactly the same way for all of them, which is smoking. I don't advocate that. But intermittent fasting is worthwhile to try. It can be, fasting just in general, can be very clarifying to the mind, provided you don't take it too far, provided you don't go too far with it. And the other part, eat healthy food, is a very good idea. A very good idea. Not just in what you do eat, bright greens, eat your vegetables, cut down on the processed meat, cut down on processed sugar, but also what you don't do. You know, that the liter bottle of soda pop, the liter bottle of pure sugar soda pop that is loaded with sugar and caffeine, that I know some people, including some of you, who drink a liter bottle of that stuff every day. That's just amazing. It is totally, totally horrible for you. It has no upsides at all. It's not even that it quenches a thirst. It dehydrates you. It's full of caffeine. So it's not just what you eat, but it's what you don't eat as well. Very good advice. Again, like with many of these other pieces of advice, I would say start simple. Baby steps. You'll get there. Number 7 is meet and communicate new people. English is not Emmett's first language, so the piece of advice is meet and communicate new people. The instruction, communicate new people in the age of COVID-19, is a little bit worrying, but you know what he means. Meet and communicate. Meet new people. Well, not a big deal, really, for us here on BookTube, because we're outgoing. This little corner of BookTube is very outgoing. A newcomer to BookTube, they may get sucked in by the YA crowd. They may get sucked in by the hot take, spill the tea, vicious high school girl type crowd. But if they're lucky enough to fall in with us, with this crowd, they'll be welcomed with open arms. They'll meet a whole bunch of new people right away. So that is possible to do even virtually, even in a COVID-racked world. Number 8 is something I've mentioned on this channel before. Drink more water. I've heard this from BroTube channels forever. And then when I was up in Vermont visiting the Richardson family, we were at Ollie's or Walmart or whatever, one of those big box stores where the prices are dirt cheap. There's everything in the world there. And I never get to go to those stores on my own because I don't have a car. I don't drive. And places like rural Vermont, where everybody does have a car, those places are hopping business. And one time when we were there, I thought, well, I've often heard this, the benefits of overdrinking, of drinking too much, what I consider to be too much water in the course of a day. Why don't I get one of those aluminum thermoses and just fill it with water and see how it feels? It felt fantastic. I felt the difference almost immediately. And then I came back to Boston and I ordered a container that was twice as big. And now, oh my, I cannot stress enough. You will feel the difference. It's very hard to put into words what it feels like. But when you are completely hydrated, you will feel the difference. It is amazing. Just amazing. It's hard, unlike most other physical sensations, it's hard for me to put into words. But I felt it right away, and I wouldn't want to do without it. Absolutely wouldn't want to do without it. Number 9 is watch educational videos and listen to podcasts. And here the existence of the BroTube grift rears its ugly head because, of course, he has a podcast in mind. He has educational videos in mind. They just so happen to be his own. I would agree, always educating yourself is a good idea, but not if somebody's trying to sell you something. Those two things don't go together. So I would say what you already know, which is vet accordingly. Number 10 is live in the present. BroTubers love to say this. None of them do. Absolutely none of them do. They absolutely live on futures and trading. They're all into options. They're all into the stock market. That is not living in the present. they all are, quite a few of the ones that I know of have bug out bags. They have alternate homes. One has a rather elaborate dug-in shelter against the you-know-what hitting the fan. That is not living in the present. None of that is living in the present. A lot of that is living in the future. One possible future, any possible future. And living in the present is a dumb idea. Humans don't do it anyway. Humans can't do it anyway. So this one is safely ignored. Number 11 is listen to others. BroTube grift artists love to do this because they're all operating in the shadow of Jordan Peterson, who put this in his original self-help book, even though he himself absolutely does not follow the prescript of treating everyone like they know something you don't. He absolutely does not follow that precept, not just now that he's a squintillionaire, but when he was from 18 on. Never in his life for a moment has he lived that way. But he had the cojones to put it in his book, and so a million self-help BroTube grifters all over the world feel they have to repeat it. What the form here is listen to others. Amit never listens to others. Never. Most BroTube grift artists never listen to others. They are in a complete echo chamber of one. But nevertheless, it is a good idea. It is a very, very good idea. Just because the BroTube archpriests don't do it doesn't mean it isn't a good idea. It's a very good idea to listen to others. And not in the Jordan Peterson way of value extraction, like they were some sort of seam of coal that you're going to drill until it's empty, and then you'll move on to somebody else. But because people have interesting things to say, because it broadens you in the same way that reading does. Listening to others is a very good idea. Then number 12 is learn new skills. This is a wonderful idea. Again, I want to stress what you probably don't need stress at all, which is that the BroTube grift artists don't actually do this. They don't actually follow any of their own advice. Nevertheless, it is a good idea, specifically if it's a skill that you've always wanted, sort of halfway thought about doing. You know, if you've always wanted to learn how to play the violin, there are instruction videos on YouTube. Your library may rent you a violin. Plenty of larger libraries rent a lot more than books. And there you could, I'm sure, get a perfectly serviceable beginner learner violin on eBay or Amazon for $15, $20, $30. Not a large investment. In other words, all the pieces are in place so that you could give it a try. Again, I would just say baby steps. Don't expect the world instead, but definitely give it a try. You never know. Number 13 is take decisions consciously. This is Amit's variation on living intentionally, on infusing everything with intention. Don't just react like a pinball to the stimuli that are all around you. Instead, think, okay, what am I actually doing with the next hour of my life? What am I actually doing with that next hour? And is it what I want to do, or is it a way to make it better through bearing down on it with intentionality? Very good idea. Number 14 is save 10% of your income. And the BroTube channels often say this. And just like a blind pig finding a truffle now and again, this is the one piece of advice they tend to give that I can wholeheartedly endorse. I actually do wholeheartedly endorse the drink more water. You should drink a lot more water. And also you should, for the home team, I should add here, you should be sure that your dogs are drinking more water. You don't refresh their water as often as you should. If you're like 99.9% of owners that I have known, you don't refresh their water as often as you should. So, but yourself, yes, drink more water. But in this case, yes, save money. Put money aside. And the easiest way to do it is to set a percentage. Amounts are easy to fudge. But if you set a percentage and just stick to it, that's a lot better than saying, well, I'll put this much aside and just randomly deciding that number. First of all, you will always decide too high if you're deciding a random just a random number. That number will always be too high, and so you will lock yourself into a habit of constantly taking from that number, of failing to save that amount. Most people do that. They set the number too high. But if you set a percentage, 10% is actually very good. So the next time you get paid, no matter how it happens, calculate what 10% of that payment is and just lock it away somewhere and don't touch it. And then the time after that you get paid, do the same thing and just keep doing it. You'll be amazed. After a little while, it will be a habit and it adds up. That's good advice. Number 15 is develop a habit of learning. This is connected to a couple of other pieces of advice here, and it is very, very good advice. We will see as we go on in this episode of Bro Watch that BroTube grifters don't follow their own advice. They don't do the things that they're advising, but nevertheless, a habit of learning is very healthy. Number 16 is set goals. Kind of self-evident, although I wonder how many of you do it. It does help to clarify what you want to do. I myself don't set huge overarching goals, but I set daily goals, and it helps a lot. it helps a lot, especially because it makes you more aware of egregious time wasting. If the goals are sitting right there, then it's easier for you to pay attention when you're wasting time. Number 17 is develop your personality. I swear, sometimes this material just writes itself. The BroTube grifters, of course, do not do this. There's not a one of them who doesn't think he's Christ come back to earth. So they don't develop their personality. They would be deeply, deeply personally insulted if you told them they needed to. And I'm not really sure that their proscripts can be taken seriously. How would they know how to develop your personality, since not one of them has ever thought it was necessary since they were 15 years old? I don't know how I would describe it either, except as an adjunct to what we've already said, which is increase the intentionality of your living and also try new things. I think if you do those two things, you will be developing your personality. Number 18 is spend time with nature. This is a very good idea. Amit says in his video that it is a form of meditation. Just being in nature is a form of meditation. That is absolutely true. I don't know what opportunity a lot of you get, but I bet a lot of you have more opportunities than you take. You should maybe consider taking them, because it's incredibly rejuvenating. I do it whenever absolutely whenever I can. I make the time to do that. Then number 19 is make your vision board. Like I said, they're fairly easy to deal with here, but nevertheless, in terms of what did we say already? Set goals, that sort of thing. A vision board is, they mean it as more than this. They're verging on the manifestation territory that we're going to get into later in the video. They mean the whiteboard that these guys can't live without, where you set out, here's where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years, here's how I want to build my empire, that sort of thing. And if you're piping up there wherever you are and saying, well, how does that go along with living in the present? It doesn't. It doesn't. That's the whole point, is that they're just liars. They're just lying in order to get your money. But sometimes they will say worthwhile things. I have no idea what a vision board is. None whatsoever. And I don't think it's a good idea to do such a thing. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Vision boards, to me, tend to be the type of thing that young masters of the universe say because they think they can control when they get pancreatic cancer or something like that. You can't. But setting goals is a good idea. Not just immediate short-term goals, but like slightly longer-term goals as well. Then number 20 is read books. I was honestly thinking when I was watching this video that a channel called Readers Books Club was never going to mention books. He finally does, though, at 20. And it's, of course, advice that I endorse. You should read books. Number 21 is write a journal. This is going to come up again in this video, and I wholeheartedly endorse it. You should keep a journal, but we're going to be stressing it a little later, so I'll leave it here. And number 22 is make to-do lists. So live in the present, but make to-do lists. How to-do lists differ from a vision board, I do not know. But a to-do list, as I mentioned, is a good thing to do. I make one every day, and it's very helpful. Not just in terms of what I mentioned, keeping an eye on your wasted time. If you've got a to-do list just sitting there, and you start to like the feeling of crossing things off, you're going to pay more attention to your wasted time. Not just that, but also just in terms of forgetfulness. If you've got a busy day coming up, a to-do list can help a lot in making sure that one little thing that's really going to bug you if you forget it isn't something that you forget, because you'll have it on your list. Especially since you've got all the built-in note functions on your cell phone, so they can be right there with you at all times. But that was Readers Books Club. That was his 22 things to do in 2022. And that's not the only BroTube channel that we're going to deal with in today's Bro Watch. The next one is one that a lot of you like. Ryan Holiday, who we've talked about before, the Daily Stoic. This is a BroTube channel that a lot of you have told me, could you check him out? I think he's more sincere than the guys that you usually take behind the woodshed. I would like it if, a lot of you have said basically you would like it if I liked him, as opposed to, I suppose, me ripping him to shreds. So I went and watched him. I've done a video on him. If I remember, I'll link it down below. And I do like a lot of what I see on his channel. I think, contrary to BroTube habit videos that he and others have given, I think that he isn't conscious of the seductiveness of bad habits, and I think, therefore, that he's falling into a lot of bad habits. I noticed this video that the algorithm served me up. Some of his bad habits were considerably worse than they were in the last video that I watched of his, which was about a year ago. Because I haven't been watching every video along the line, because I had a gap in between, I was able to see more clearly how some of these bad habits are taking root. Like, I jotted some of them down. Well, one of the minor ones is that he uses impactful a lot, even though it's not a word. but another bad habit, a lot of these BroTube grifters have it. He has it, and he's getting more and more comfortable with it. And I don't like that. He's not just B-roll footage that displays himself jogging or walking around or fishing or contemplating the sunset or whatever, but that worshipfully presents him. His B-roll footage is in love with him. Whereas with Reader's Books Club, I was in love with the B-roll footage. But instead, in Ryan Holiday's videos, his B-roll footage is in love with him. Just in general, a bad habit of his that he is getting more and more pronounced, I think, with every year that he goes on in making his videos, is thinking more and more highly of himself in a kind of insistent and off-putting way. It's not just the loving B-roll footage in this latest video. I'll leave a link to all these videos down below in case you want to waste your time watching them. Although I should stress, again, the only BroTube advice channel that you need to watch is mine. But it's not just the worshipful B-roll footage, always of himself doing something really cool. It's just weird. I mean, putting all of that footage of yourself doing things gives an inadvertent and very unattractive window into how you look at yourself, I think. I mean, imagine if I did that. It'd be absolutely ridiculous. You'd all be laughing your heads off at me. But it's not just that. It's also two other things that he does that are self-worshiping in a way that if he doesn't nip it in the bud, it's going to get worse. He gives a list of books that you should read in 2022, and almost every single one of them comes with some sort of prominent mention about how he has interviewed the author, talked with the author, sat on a panel with the author, to the point, I mean, once or twice, maybe. He's young and he's really successful. He's got to be proud of that. But when it's almost every single time, you're starting to think, okay, well, are you recommending these people because of you? Is this clout chasing, as the kids say? Are you, as the kids say, flexing? Or are you really recommending these things? Is the thing that we should be impressed with the quality of their thought, or you? There's that as well for self-worship in his videos, and also the thing that drove me crazy the most in this video. Oh my God, you're going to notice it right away. He indulges all throughout this video enormously in one of the worst new habits of YouTube just in general, which is for the speaker to stop doing what I'm doing now, look at you, and instead show you B-roll footage, I guess, of them saying the same things, only like this. They're looking off. They're looking somewhere else. They're not looking at you. And then they'll go back to looking at you. So some of the B-roll footage is of him giving the same speech, the same video, only he's looking over here like that. And you might ask yourself, if you see it and you're not familiar with it before, you might think that is really weird. If you're going to say the same words, why would you even do that? And it doesn't take long thinking about it to realize why someone would do that. It's to simulate the experience of you being in an audience or a classroom where only one person is going to be directly in front of them and everyone else is going to be seeing them from the side. And it's a lecture that they're giving. It's not a conversation that they're having with you. It's a lecture in an auditorium. And that they want that to sort of subliminally signal to you that you are sitting in an audience listening to someone give you a lecture. Totally obnoxious. Totally obnoxious. It totally undercuts any kind of genuine immediacy that you might want to cultivate elsewhere in your video. It's just so off-putting. And he does it all the time in this video. But anyway, I wanted to get to the books that he recommends. He recommends 9 books. The first one, of course, being the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, because he never goes a video or even 5 minutes in a video without talking about the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Nothing's wrong with that. It's a very, very interesting work. You should not organize your life around it, but it is a very, very interesting work. And one of the added notes of interest in this video is that Ryan Holiday mentions, in addition to his usual translation of Marcus Aurelius, he mentions the New Robin Waterfield Annotated Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, which is a very impressive volume. I was glad that he recommended it. Very glad on Robin Waterfield's part that a lot of his followers are just going to go right out and order the thing. It is very, very interesting. The one thing I didn't notice in his recommendation of Marcus Aurelius, the one thing that I've never noticed in any of the times that he's talked about Marcus Aurelius, is any hint of an idea, despite the fact that he goes on and on about how you've got to try new things, enhance your mind, learn, break new pathways, all of that, despite the fact that he and all these other ProTube grifters go on and on about that. The one thing I've never heard from Ryan Holiday is that he is learning Greek. Is he learning Greek or Latin? Is he ever, in a lifetime of writing books about or extracting value from Marcus Aurelius, is he ever even going to contemplate learning to read Marcus Aurelius without a translator? Is he ever going to do that? Instead, in this video, he's talking about the original English language translation, and now this new English language translation. But he recommends it, and so do I. I recommend that Robin Waterfield translation very much so. Then number 2 is How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith, a new book from last year that he recommends. Interesting. He owns a bookstore. Ryan Holiday owns a bookstore, and it's always encouraging for me when bookstore owners read new releases. That's really great. I read Clint Smith's book. I reviewed it for the Christian Science Monitor, and my editor and I at the Monitor decided on a watered-down version of the original review that I made. I liked Clint Smith's book quite a bit, but like a lot of what you could uncharitably call race-baiting titles in the 21st century, it's unfair as often as it's fair to a lot of people, and that bothers me. It happens all throughout the book. If you contend that America is a country that was not only founded on endemic systemic racism, but also that continues to operate on the basis of systemic racism, then you shouldn't have to hunt for it, where it obviously is not. It should be easy for you to find. And it is easy for Clint Smith to find. I think we read a couple of arresting passages from that book when I first got the advanced copy on this channel. And they are genuinely arresting. They are legitimately so. But he doesn't use any, to use a loaded word, discrimination throughout the course of his book. And it starts to wear on me after a while. At one point, he's talking to a white man who's giving a tour of an intensely racist institution that has an intensely racist past. Now it has tours in order to instruct newcomers on its intensely racist past. And he's talking about it to Clint Smith, and at one point says, well, there's nothing I can do about the fact that this used to be this way. And Clint Smith doesn't believe him, or at least doesn't think that's enough. And if that's not enough, then what are we talking about? What are we even talking about? If a white man reflecting on the racist past of an institution that he is instructing people about in detail, if that white man can't say, well, I myself am not racist, and I can't change this past, I can only instruct people about it, if that's not good enough, well, anyway, there were parts of How the Word is Passed where I thought that wasn't good enough, and of course that is good enough. So those parts bothered me, but it could have been worse. The whole book could have been those parts, like, for instance, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Ibram X. Kendi. The whole book could have been that, and it wasn't. Instead, it's a very, very moving, smart book, which is the only reason that I agreed to a slightly gentler review. Ordinarily, I don't agree to that sort of stuff at all. But in this case, I do wholeheartedly second Ryan Holiday's recommendation. Then his third was The Choice by Edith Eger. I don't know this book. Apparently, she's a Holocaust survivor, and he is hugely in love with the book. Naturally, he mentions that he's talked to her, but his discussion of the book is what I paid attention to. And like I'm sure many thousands of people who watched his video, his discussion, very passionate, very genuine, made me want to read her book. So I probably will. Then number 4 was something you're never gonna see a BroTube Grifter channel without this book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which Ryan Holiday clearly loves. I think lots of other BroTube Grifters also clearly love it. I think that it is vapid almost from beginning to end. I've never understood why it gets such a high rating from all of these guys. I've never understood why that is, but Viktor Frankl appears on this list twice. Because the next book, number 5, is Yes to Life, a newly brushed up Frankl manuscript that I'm not familiar with. I read Man's Search for Meaning, and just was bored to tears by it. But Yes to Life I have not read. And The next one, number 6, is Indian Givers by Jack Weatherford, which I read and really liked. And Ryan Holiday read it and really liked it. So that's actually 2 people recommending it to you. The number 7 was Martha, a biography of Martha Graham by Agnes de Mille, which I have not read and which I never in a million years would have expected that Ryan Holiday would read. But he did. I guess, he owns a bookstore. And it's part, I think, from what I've been able to gather, it's part new stock and part old stock. And if it's part old stock, that means old stock will be coming in on a regular basis. Maybe, knowing that and seeing this book on his list gave me a very attractive picture of maybe Ryan Holiday just sort of examining the new books as they come in, that maybe there's a part of him, a part of his reading brain, that is still wide open to curiosity. If so, wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Then number 8 is Victory Over Myself by Floyd Patterson, a sports memoir that I haven't read. I got the strong impression in his video that Ryan Holiday mostly liked the title. But he appears to have liked the book as well. I haven't read it. I'm not particularly curious to know what some uncredited and underpaid hack made of Floyd Patterson's ramblings, but maybe if I see it at the Brattle. And then number 9 is The Harder They Fall by Bud Schulberg, the author of What Makes Sammy Run, which I think is an underrated classic in American literature. The Harder They Fall is not an underrated classic in American literature. It was a weird choice. And it, like Agnes, made me think that these things were at the top of were in a box that came to Ryan Holiday's store. The synchronicity is just too much to ask for otherwise. These strike me as used bookstore picks, things that just struck his interest, which would make for a really interesting book. Of course, those are all of his recommendations, and you don't get the impression that I don't get the impression that he's interested in books anymore. My biggest worry about Ryan Holiday is that he has degenerated to the point where he is just sifting through books for little nuggets that he can then pull out and stick into the pasteboard mosaic of his next book. I've read his last 4 books, and they are written that way. They are just nugget after nugget after nugget. They are syncretized rather than written. And that's bad. Talk about a bad habit to get into. You do that, you're not coming back. It's your job as a writer to create a synthesized narrative, not to just store up little bright pebbles in a jar. It kills me that this guy has read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations in English probably more times than anyone has ever done in the 21st century, and yet he might be reading it that way, like a raven out in a picnic, grounds, just going straight for the shiny bits and picking them out, not to appreciate where they are in their original setting, but to put them in a new mosaic that you can slap a $29.95 price tag on. If Ryan Holiday strikes me as a generous and energetic reader, if he degenerates to the point where that's what he's doing, that would be a shame. That would be a real shame. But he at least gave us a book list for 2022. The next BroTube Grifters one that we have seen before, another one that we've seen before, Nate O'Brien, who has 1.19 million subscribers. And who gave a list of books, 10 books you need to read in 2022. And unlike a lot of other BroTube grifting channels, I actually get the impression that he's read most of these, that he actually is recommending them as books, which is kind of rare. Number 1 is The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, or Haidt. Jonathan Haidt is a fantastic writer. He is like I am. He is utterly outraged by a lot of the censorship, prudishness, and autocratic leanings that he's seeing on the so-called progressive American left. It is entirely possible to be outraged by all of that, and also to be outraged by the actual jackbooted autocratic leanings of the American right. They're both wrong. And he's written a couple of really good books on the subject. I don't think I've read The Righteous Mind, and seeing Nate O'Brien recommend it made me want to. The next one is Token Economy by Sherman Vosmir. Economics. Nate O'Brien is big into economics, as you're going to see on this list. He's big into economics. And he recommends unabashedly a bunch of things on this list that are purely wonky. Makes no apologies about it, and that's fine by me. I've not heard of this book. I'm sure that I would not understand it. The next one is How to Talk to Anyone by Lail Lowndes, and he aims this at all of the introverts in his crowd of people. And I chuckled for a minute, and I remembered, wait a minute, a lot of you are introverts. I can no longer even make the joking pretense that I am an introvert. I'm not only not an introvert, but I don't really understand them all that well. But if you are one and you're looking for a book recommendation, I think that Nate O'Brien is an introvert, and I think, therefore, he will know whether or not a book is really good on the subject. And he recommends How to Talk to Anyone. So, then the next one is Narrative Economics by Robert Schiller, who he describes as, quote, one of the greatest economists of all time. That automatically made me want to run the name by David Murphy, the economist in our own little corner of BookTube. Nate O'Brien is a millionaire a couple of times over, and David Murphy is not. But I'd be willing to bet that David Murphy has read roughly 1,000 times the economic literature that Nate O'Brien has. So I'd be curious to know if David thinks this, what was his name again? Robert Schiller is one of the greatest economists of all time. I don't know, one way or another. I would never read his book. Then the next one was a huge thing. It was called Options as a Strategic Investment by Lawrence Macmillan. Gigantic brick of a thing. Made for investing. Made for understanding the nuts and bolts of options and options trading. Nate O'Brien apparently knows this well. He is, as he says on his videos many times, wealthy. He is very wealthy, and he gets it this way. So I, again, wouldn't try it at all, but I think he sensed at this point in this video that he was getting maybe a little bit too wonky, because he said a line that I just cherished before. If I'd been in the room, I would have hugged him. I laughed my head off. He said, sometimes I read a lot of fluff. There's nothing wrong with that. I read fiction too. Just automatically equating fiction with fluff. I wanted to kiss him on both cheeks, Russian style. So he immediately shifted to Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. Jared Diamond's big, bloviating, idea-driven look at Western civilization and its depravities that has its occasional companionable moments, but oh my, if this is where you start and stop in your history reading, you're missing out on a lot. And he also mentions Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. These BroTube grifters cannot do without that book. I do not understand it. I really do not, but they can't do without it. He also mentions a book called Valuation. Again, this is pure economics. So those of you who are interested in that sort of thing, you might want to check out his channel. I'm sure he has other videos on books. He, as a sop to some kind of intellectual propriety, he mentions a classic 1984. It's very obvious, at least it was to me, that he read 1984 in a very different way from the way he read lots of the other books on this list. Or maybe he didn't read it at all. We're going to get to a very obvious example of that in the next section here. He might have read it, but I don't think he cared about it the way he cares about these others. Then another one is by W. Chan Kim and Renee Marburg, and it is Blue Ocean Strategy, an absolute modern day Bible of the business world, of the business, these bloated, entitled, extremely self-impressed business speak inspirational guidebooks that take the most shop-worn, silly grade school observations and treat them as holy writ. I have to review one of these things every single flippin' day. I know all about them, and they all mention this book. To the point where a couple of years ago, I actually got a copy and read it, and it is as dumb and derivative as all the rest of them. But if you like that kind of literature, if you like The Richest Man in Babylon or Rich Dad, Poor Dad or A 4-Hour Work Week, and you somehow haven't gotten around to Blue Ocean Strategy, it's right in that vein. If you've read those books and really like them, you're going to want to read this book. And he finishes up with Financial Services Revolution by Alex Tapscott, which he says is about blockchain. I have not got around to asking David Murphy to explain blockchain to me, and I don't think he wants to. But we should all gang up on him and make him do a series of videos for us on basic financial stuff that we see in the news, just so that we understand. If we can't bully our own in-house economist, what use is he? He's certainly not making entertaining videos now, is he? But then we'll finish out this latest Bro Watch with I'd confess, my favorite BroTube grifter of them all. I've mentioned him many times before, and several of you have pointed out that when I mention him, even when I'm raining down fire on all of his compatriots, my voice fills with affection, and it does, and there's a reason for that. It's Clark Kegley. whose channel I will link to down below, and who made a video on 5 life-changing books you must read in 2022. Now, when he made this video, he had 834,000 subscribers. I have no doubt that he'll break 1 million in 2022. And the reason my voice fills with affection when I watch his video, I don't know Clark at all. I've never met him. I never will meet him. I'll never be in any kind of contact with him. But he would have been one of mine. I mean, these others maybe, kind of, sort of, in a way, here and there. But Clark Kegley, when he was 18, would have been one of mine. He would have been one of my bright, funny, smart, young, beautiful lunkheads of the type that I have been taking into my orbit for decades. Decades. Loving them, talking with them, challenging them, making fun of them, usually starting off proceedings by detoxing them, because when I get to them, they're all tobacco addicts and they need to be detoxed before you can spend any time with someone. Right? You can't spend any time with someone if the price of spending time with them is that you have to run the risk of getting lung cancer. I don't love anyone enough to do that. So you have to detox them first, and then maybe. But there's a particular type, and I don't know that any of my boys who are all grown up now are watching this channel, but if they are, they will be nodding. They will say, yeah, I was that type. And if they watched all of these, if they go back and watch all the links of all of these videos, they'll say, okay, this guy, maybe, this guy, you might want to ask him about his books. This guy, you might want to talk to him about the books he reads. This guy, oh, yes, you would be hanging out with him. You would be getting to know him. You would be getting to know his parents. You would be changing him. And he'd be the better for it if he was smart. But it's never going to happen now, because Clark is a multimillionaire, specifically because he has become a fake version of that for thousands of young men who think that he has that to offer, when, unfortunately, I think he mostly wants their money. He has now a self-transformation program. If you are the mastermind of a self-transformation program, if in your video, as he does in this video, he's saying, if you call this number, one of my team will talk to you. Not I will talk to you, but one of my team will. He has a fleet of sort of mini-me ProTube grifters. If you reach that point, then I don't think there's any chance of coming back down that road. If you're extremely successful from pumping out this kind of bilge water, then you're not going to backtrack, I don't think. The one and only time that I ever saw it happen, the person was down that road forever and ever and ever. I did my best with him. I did my best, but he decided to go into corporate finance and ruin people's lives and yell at people all day, treat them like garbage, even getting to the point of issuing the infamous memo, do not make eye contact me when I walk through the hallway, that sort of thing. There are people who do that. And unfortunately, one of my boys actually did that, and then had a totally stereotypical massive heart attack on the golf links. And after that, did walk back his whole life. I dread that happening. But one way or another, Clark has books to recommend. I thought we'd go through them before we wrap this up. Number 1 is Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke. A very, very good book. Very interesting book. Gets more relevant by the day. Number 2 is The One Thing by Gary Keller. I think this is another one of those business BroTube motivational guides like Blue Ocean Strategy. I haven't read it. I don't know whether it's any good. The next one is Clark's SOP, much like 1984, where he puts in the essential writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he holds up the gigantic, very beautiful modern library paperback that he certainly has not read. Oh, come now. He hasn't even read in it. He's just thinking, I need one of these old bearded dudes to give this a kind of leavening solemnity. But come on. Why would you even try that? Just haul in Man's Search for Meaning if you're going to do that. But don't haul in Emerson, for Pete's sake. I went to school with him. I take it personally. And then finally, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, another book that strikes me as woo-woo, but I don't know it. So it could be good and I might not know it. But Clark finishes up his list of the books you must do in 2022 with the thing that he won my heart for as the YouTube's foremost champion. And I totally agree with him. The most important book for you to encounter in 2022 is the book you write yourself, your journal. Clark is an unbelievable, effective proponent of keeping a journal, and so am I. I strongly recommend that you keep a journal. He makes his own brand. You can buy it. He has like a whole seminar that you can pay for to learn to get better at journaling. It's actually not necessary. No offense to his bottom line, but you can just take out paper and write every day. But oh my, you will love it. And it's a book, as Clark often says, he's been saying it for years in his video, there's no better book than the book that's written specifically for you, by you. That makes perfect sense. And it's a transformative thing that you can do. So I'm going to round out this episode of Bro Watch with a wholehearted agreement. I wholeheartedly agree that you should keep a journal in 2022. Start today and make 2022 the year when you do that. Entirely worth your time. So there you go. That is Bro Watch. Our first episode of Bro Watch for 2022. The algorithm served all of these videos up to me at different times, and I thought I would conglomerate them into one enormous bicep bristling video that I'm going to wrap up now. For Bro Watch going into the new year, I will just pick one individual victim at a time. I just want to start off with a bang, so to speak. But I'll wrap this up, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.